life. My name is Damola Ogunshaki. Here on Today in the News, read and give in-depth analysis on some of the stories making waves across Nigeria. And this morning, I'm starting with Vanguard on the paper review. Vanguard is leading with federal government's zero-duty food import policy faces fresh hurdles. Customs agent is at confusion among implementation agencies. Inflation, exchange rates defeat policy objectives, that according to analysts. Policy not optimal, that's according to AfriInvest. You can see that on page 21. And here there are three pictures. The writer says protesters are marching to celebrate fourth hashtag EndSARS protest at Lekki toll gate clash with the police in Lekki. And that's a picture on the left, while the picture top right showing some of the protesters arrested by the police in a Black Maria during a protest, while bottom right, some of the protesters arrested by the police at the protest yesterday. Now on page 6, scores killed in Anambra River court clash, 4 killed including policeman in Edo attack. DSS replaces Tinubu CSO Fatasi with Rashid Lawal. You can see that on page 13. National Assembly proposes reintroduction of 5% exercise duty on telecom and betting services. Serap to Tinubu, stop weaponizing security agencies against Nigerians. That can be seen on page 10 and on sports. On page 36, Libyan wants Libya punished for Super Eagles maltreatment. Above the banner on page 8, go on at 90. Obi replies to critics, says Nigeria needs love, forgiveness to move forward. CSO's kick as police arrest disperse hashtag EndSARS memorial protesters. And lastly, on Vanguard newspaper, Mogalu appointed President, African School of Governance. Now, away from there, we move to the Punch. Punch is leading with grid collapses 105 times in 10 years despite $1.4 billion loans. Government fails to assess additional $2.96 billion World Bank approved electricity infrastructure loans. Buhari records 93 grid collapses. Tinubu 12 incessant grid collapse worries NEC and consumers. On page 45, hashtag EndSARS Memorial, Amnesty activists tackle police over protesters' harassment. Super Eagles striker Boniface survives the car crash in Germany. That can be seen on page 46. On page 37, foreign investors dump 355 billion naira stock over forest crisis. And the Canada-based nurse 2B's man nabbed for drug trafficking. That can be seen on page 5 above. We have petrol marketers imports 123 million litres. Continue talks with Dangote. Ganduje, APC governors who aggrieved aspirant for Ayed Hatiwa. INEC records PDP's request for state rep deployment. And lastly, on the Punch newspaper, current insecurity worse than during my government. That's according to the former president of Olusegun Obasanjo. Now the Guardian. Guardian is leading with federal government budget in logjam as multiple appropriations seek attention. You can see that on page 6. And on page 4, only urgent NEC will avert implosion. And PDP ex-officials members won. Security items over IPOB's sit-at-home order. Al Buhari reversed Nigeria's 16-year economy gains by World Bank. You can see that on Finance and Economy page 23. Minimum wage, the 14 states may face industrial unrest in November. 20 million out-of-school children are potential Boko Haram recruits, Obasanjo wants. And move around daytime to understand Nigeria's plight. Uriwa tells Tinubu. Lastly, on the Guardian newspaper, hashtag EndSARS. 4 years after, Amnesty International sounds alarm over continued police abuses. The Nation this morning is leading with federal government, no room for secession by any ethnic group. Living together an obligation, not optional. Minister, we will end other farmer clashes. You can see that on page 2. Still on page 2, Inspector General orders man owned for killers of 3 policemen in Lagos and Edo. CBN extends a suspension of cash deposit fees. Native doctor client held for burying man alive in failed fortification bid. You can see that on page 6 and above the banner. Go on telling leadership and inspiration, says Tinubu. DSS replaces Tinubu CSO. The police free hashtag EndSARS protesters in Lagos. Lastly, on the Nation newspaper, Ekiti PDP wants Fayose expelled. You can see that on page 6 of the Nation newspaper. And that's all we have on the stories on the front pages this morning. Just after the break for the brief analysis of some of the stories. Welcome back. If you are just joining me, this is Today in the News on Vanguard Live. My name is Damlola Ogunshaki, and this morning we are starting with Financial Vanguard. Now, hopes of many low-income Nigerians for lower food prices may be dashed as the zero import duty policy on essential food staples appears to have hit fresh itches. Now, stakeholders are citing lack of coordination, unclear directives, and underlining agronomic and infrastructural challenges as major obstacles. Now, this comes at the backdrop of a renewed inflationary pressure on the purchasing power of the vulnerable citizens. The main reason for the measure with the objective of moderating the prices of essential food items. Nigeria's inflation had consistently maintained upswing since assumption of office by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in May 2023 with May 2024 figure at 33.95%, up massively from 22.4% inherited in May 2023. Now, amidst the inflationary pressures, President Tinubu, marking his 1 year in office, announced a 150-day duty-free import window for food commodities to ensure a reduction in food inflation in Nigeria. However, Nigeria's inflation rate, which peaked at 34.19% in June 2024, before declining for two consecutive months of July at 33.4% and 32.15% in August, reversed the progress in September, rising to 32.7%, according to data released last week by the National Bureau of Statistics. This indicates that the hardship is far from moderating. Now, amidst this development, Financial Vanguard findings show that the softening measures through the zero duty food import is not going to happen anytime soon, as the government agencies involved have been tied down to by role conflict in the process of the implementation. The initial setback Vanguard learned was the need for the Ministry of Finance to issue relevant directives for commencement, a situation which led to an initial 2-month delay. Now, giving further insight into the controversies, a key stakeholder in the policy implementation value chain, Lucky, who is the president of the National Council of Managing Directors of Licensed Customs Agents, expressed frustration over the unclear status of the zero import duty implementation. Speaking to Vanguard, he cited lack of coordination among the government agencies as the primary cause of the logjam. Meanwhile, Afri-Invest Research, an arm of Afri-Invest West Africa, a Lagos-based investment house, has questioned the policy's effectiveness, suggesting that the protectionist approach may not yield optimal results due to Nigeria's agronomic and infrastructure challenges. And that's what we have here on the Financial Vanguard. But of course, there are still more breakdowns on that story, and you can get them on our website. Now, away from that, tragedy struck in Nibo, Oka South local government area of Anambra State yesterday, as scores of lives were lost in brutal attack by marksmen. Now, this came as 4 persons were killed in Edowa community, Awo Ada East local government area of River State, when government suspected to be cultists invaded the community with heavy gunfire. In Nibo, the gunmen were said to have stormed an eatery in the community in a black Lexus SUV and opened fire, shooting people indiscriminately, leaving several people dead. At the last count, no fewer than 10 persons were already dead. Now, according to eyewitnesses, the attack occurred during the Onwa Asa ceremony, a traditional festival in the community. And he said it was like a war zone. The gunmen just stormed the place and started shooting everywhere. People were screaming, running for their lives, screaming and crying, and it was a chaos. Now, it was gathered that the gunmen, believed to be members of Iceland Court Group, invaded the community about 2 a.m. With sophisticated weapons. It was learned that on entering the community, they started shooting sporadically and moving from house to house in search of their targets, killing 4 persons in the process. Now, a source within the community disclosed that 3 of the killed persons were natives of Edoa, while the other one is native of Ekata, a community in the same Abuada East local government area, but lives in Edoa. The source hinted that the suspected Iceland court members who carried out the killing came from a camp in a neighboring community to carry out the overnight killing at Edoa. And that's a story on that, especially the court. And, the police are currently investigating this case. May the soul of those who lost their life rest in peace. Now, away from there, we move to a prominent Libyan football official, Al Sidik Abu Adima, has called for tough sanctions on the Libyan Football Federation officials responsible for the crisis that engulfed the suspended Libyan Nigeria Africa Cup of Nations qualifying match. Adina, a former president of the Al Jara club, asked for the dismissal and production of those responsible for the crisis. In a publication in Libya outlet, Al Wasat Adima recommended that if such people fail to submit a report that will exonerate them when the Sunday 20 October deadline issued by CAF lapses, then they must be prosecuted and permanently dismissed. Awasat got Adima's comment from his post on Facebook and remarked that this negligence, if it happened, constitutes a betrayal of trust and a lack of awareness of the gravity of responsibility. Now, to recall that the Nigerian delegation to the Bosch March was held up for close to 20 hours at an abandoned Labrak airport, where their aircraft already on descent was dangerously diverted to. The Nigerians were left without food and water for nearly 20 hours. CAF has already strongly condemned the actions of the Libyans, and this particular situation got a lot of reactions from people on social media. But let's end this on a lighter note this morning with Mr. and Mrs. And the first person speaking today is Mr. Mr. says, I transferred 130,000 naira to your account, but right there in my presence at the shopping mall, you spent 100,000 naira. Let me have the rest. And Mr. says, that little amount is called palliative. Whenever you're broke, it becomes subsidy. If you take it from me now, it becomes subsidy remover. Mr. and Mrs. They're just, making, joke out of what is currently going on in the country, making use of the palliative subsidy and the subsidy remover, situation going on in the country. But this is where we have to draw the curtain today. My name is Damola Ogunshaki. Do well to like and follow us on all our social media platforms showing on your screen on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. You can